Hello, you're very welcome back to the Contrary Fuchsia. Thanks for tuning in again. I'm going to give you some reasons to visit a garden today, but let me give you this quote first before we go anywhere. I always see gardening as an escape, as peace really. If you're angry or troubled, nothing provides the same solace as nurturing the soil. Now that was said by Monty Don, and if you know your gardening, then you'll probably know that Monty Don is the presenter of BBC's Gardener's World, and a real expert and a real man to encourage you to visit gardens. So let me give you today some reasons that you should visit a garden. So reason number one, you just want inspiration. You don't really know what you want, you just want to go and look at a garden and pick up some ideas and be inspired by what you see. There's nothing wrong with that, because you can never tell what you're going to see in a garden anywhere. You might find a plant that you've never seen before and say, I want that in my garden. Find it online, find it in a garden centre and plonk it in at home. Job done. Reason number two, design ideas. You're going to get ideas from all the gardens that you visit, whether it's the shape of your garden, whether you have an awkward corner you don't really know what to put into it. You will get the design ideas from the gardens that you're visiting. Do look up online and do a bit of research before you go to visit any particular garden, because all the different designers that are out there will have an online presence. And you will get ideas from there, but then go to the gardens that they've done and actually see them in place, because designs on paper look completely different to the actual reality on the ground. Number three, colour schemes. Remember, not all colours go together. Don't have things clashing. Don't have also maybe a border of plants and one plant that just stands out and you can see nothing else. So be careful of your colour scheme. You can have a colour scheme of all whites, all blues, all reds. That will work. You can have a colour scheme like I have around me here, just nothing but green. There's nothing flowering around me here. It's just all different greens, different shapes of leaves and different colours. Some of these will colour up again in the autumn, and that's another thing. Make sure that you have a bit of colour, extend the colour right throughout the year as best you can. Don't forget about the leaves, but don't mix colours that don't go together. That's a big mistake. And as you walk around gardens, you'll see the way they're designed and how the colours don't clash. Number four, no matter what happens and no matter what kind of a garden you have, you're going to have to maintain it in order to get value for the work that you're going to put in and the expense, because building a garden, making a garden isn't cheap. So you're going to want to be able to maintain it. Some gardens are easier to maintain than others. Go to a garden, visit a garden, talk to the staff that are there, ask them what it's like to maintain it, ask them how to maintain it. If you have time in your hands, brilliant. If you don't, you can build a garden for somebody that doesn't have a huge amount of time, just as a hobby. Reason number five, thinking outside the box. The gardens you visit will have tried and tested various experiments in their garden. They might have put in a water feature, they might have put in a sculpture, they might have put in a particular type of plant and made a mistake. So think outside the box. Don't have a garden just with grass and a few plants strewn around it. Think of something different. Lighting is another big one that's used very successfully in gardens, but the proper lighting, not a glaring light that's going to blind you as you look down along the garden. Something really subtle underneath a tree, coming up from underneath. Reason number six, advice. When you talk to the staff about maintenance, get the advice from them with regard to how did this garden start, how did they develop it, where did their ideas come from, and where do they see it going. A lot of commercial gardens will always have staff on hand and they love talking to people. That's why they're there. Gardeners, as much as they like the peace and tranquility of their own garden, as much as they love working with the plants who don't talk back to them, they do love talking to the visitors, and they love nothing more. I can tell you that for a fact. They love nothing more than advising people. Reason number 7, mature plants. I can't emphasize this one enough. I come across gardens all the time where people say, oh, I planted that tree 20 years ago and I was told in the garden centre it wouldn't grow any more than 15 feet. They do. Plants grow big, especially trees. Be very, very careful. So go to gardens, see what you want to put in and have a look at the ultimate size of the plant. If you have the space, then there's nothing better to plant than a mature tree, which will be mature when you're long gone, but it will not look out of place. Please don't make the mistake of putting big plants into a small garden. It just doesn't work. Number 8, buying plants. Now, not every garden that you go to will have that facility. In fairness, it takes a bit to have a garden and enough room to sell the plants, but some of them will undoubtedly have some plants for sale. They may have propagated them themselves, they may be extra stock that they took cuttings from and just decided to grow them on. So don't be afraid, again, don't be afraid to ask, but if they do buy the plants, it's an ideal opportunity, because if they're buying them, they will know exactly what that plant needs in terms of soil, in terms of maintenance, in terms of getting it to maturity, and in terms of how big it will eventually be. So buy plants if you can. Get them from the people that are actually growing them, and it helps to maintain that garden that you're visiting. Reason number 9. Now, for this one, you have the privilege of not having to look at me, because I need to demonstrate something. There's a design concept called masses and voids, and you'll see it here, perfectly illustrated. Not going to be applicable to you in your ordinary garden at home, but you can see a thing called masses and voids. And what it is there are masses of plants and also voids of plants. In other words, don't try to fill every gap with something. I often see lawns and beautiful gardens, and plonked right in the middle of it is a tree, and it just takes completely from the whole aesthetic of it. So use the masses and void concept, no matter what the size of your garden, no matter what the size of your garden is. Reason number 10, get out and experience nature. See what the other gardens do in order to encourage, bugs and wildlife and birds to their gardens, because they really do enhance what you have. Sitting in the morning sun with the birds whistling in the background is amazing. Even today when it is raining, under a canopy like this, the sound of the droplets falling off the leaves is just magical. We need nature in our gardens, and visiting other gardens will provide you with new ideas as to how to attract it to yours. Reason number 11. A day out with like-minded people. 3 or 4 of you might have got together, sat into one car and gone to visit a garden. Maybe one of you had been to a garden already and you wanted to take everybody else to see it because they were, reason number 1, inspired to do so. So get yourself out with some like-minded people, and maybe even bring somebody who's kind of, not really interested in plants, not really interested in gardens, and see how they will change when they see the kind of stuff you will see as you visit more and more gardens around the country. Now, it's not for everybody, but reason 12 is dining outdoors. I particularly love it. I think there is nothing better than sitting out in the evening with a barbecue going, cooking whatever you're cooking on the barbecue with some friends and some beers and a glass of wine or whatever you have, or a cup of water, whatever you have in yourself. Gardens also have that, for the most part, have that facility now, and you can have a cup of coffee and a muffin, or just a cup of coffee or a bottle of water, whatever you want yourself. But outdoor dining is one of the greatest experiences in any garden of any size. Reason number 13, relaxing. The world is in an awful state right now. There's all sorts of conflicts going on all over the world, and you just want to get away from it all. Come to a garden, sit down, watch the world go by, get a drink, people watch, turn off the phone. Do it on your own if you want to. If you meditate, there's no better place than a garden to do it. Silence, except for the sounds of nature all around you, is probably the most relaxing thing that you'll ever do in your entire life. Reason number 14, education. Now, you mightn't think that education is something that will be high in your list of priorities when you come to visit a garden, but it is going to be. You're going to see plants that you don't know. You're going to try to look them up, and there are all sorts of identification apps that help you to do that, because you're going to need to know what you're looking at. They're going to interest you by virtue of the fact you've come to the garden. Also, a lot of these big gardens particularly will run education classes, whether they're organic gardening, it could be basket making, literal basket making, or hanging basket making. So there'll be all sorts of opportunities to learn, and you will learn at a garden. So don't forget about education when you come to visit. Reason number 15. Ultimately, visiting a garden is good for the soul. Now, whether you believe you have a soul or not is entirely up to yourselves, but there's no denying that visiting a garden and walking around is good for the mind, it's good for the body, and in the times that we live in, it's ultimately good for your mental health. Take all the ideas that other people have. Nobody's copyrighted anything in these gardens. Take them, and if you can implement them in your own garden, then do it. And then experience it yourself, your own little microcosm in your own backyard or front yard or wherever your garden is. I hope I've given you some ideas that might encourage you to visit a garden. I really do. My name is Jim. See you next time on The Contrary Fuchsia.